If you look at the business world today, most companies are fighting what you can only really describe as a brutal, bloody battle.
Hmm.
They're all chasing the same customer, cutting the same prices, competing on the same features until, the profit margins just vanish.
It's the definition of a zero-sum game, really.
Yeah.
You only win if your competitor loses, and the whole market just becomes saturated and, frankly, exhausting.
Exactly. But what if you could just stop fighting? I mean, what if instead of struggling in that crowded, violent sea?
I want where competition has bloodied the waters.
Yeah, that one. What if you could just hoist your sails and glide into an open, peaceful, highly profitable ocean where you are the only ship?
And that is the compelling promise of the Blue Ocean Strategy. It's the framework we're doing a deep dive into today.
A method for achieving just massive sustainable growth by making the competition irrelevant.
Literally.
So our mission is pretty ambitious here. We need to unpack the core concepts, define the big differences between sailing in red versus blue waters.
And we have to get into the engine of this whole system, which is something called value innovation.
Right. And most importantly, we want to equip you with the practical toolkit, the 4 actions framework that lets any business actually engineer this shift.
We're basically offering a shortcut to getting smart on a strategy that just fundamentally changes how you think about markets, about growth, and about profit. So let's start by defining those 2 oceans.
Okay, let's get into it. The fundamental premise here is that the entire commercial world can be neatly divided into 2 distinct types of markets.
That's right. The vast majority of business happens in what the strategy calls the red ocean.
The existing market space.
Exactly. The industry boundaries are defined, the rules are set, and everyone is trying to beat everyone else at the exact same game.
The imagery is so powerful because it just explains that pain point everyone feels. This is that crowded market where competition is incredibly high.
And that competition, it has predictable effects. We see prices constantly falling, in a race to the bottom.
Which means profits just shrink.
They diminish so quickly. Everyone is fighting for the same finite customer base. Just think about any industry where companies are fighting over tiny percentage points.
Like mobile companies with megapixel counts.
Or airlines fighting to offer the absolute lowest ticket price by just stripping out every possible service. That is a red ocean.
So if that's the brutal reality of the red ocean, what is the alternative? What defines this appealing alternative?
That is the blue ocean. This is a new market space entirely, where the competition is just, it's non-existent when you first get there. It's uncontested.
And the characteristics are everything the red ocean isn't.
Absolutely. In the blue ocean, your focus shifts completely away from dividing up existing demand. You are actively creating new demand.
You're attracting new customers who weren't even in the market before.
Right. And since you're the only player, at least for a while, prices and profits are high, and the strategic focus is on defining value, not on matching competitors.
This is really the first essential takeaway for you, the listener. The goal is not to launch a product that's just a little bit better than your competitors.
No, the goal is to be fundamentally different by carving out a new space that your competitor hasn't even thought of yet.
You're looking for differentiation, but also low cost.
And that dual pursuit, that's the heart of the engine that drives this whole thing. Value innovation.
Value innovation. Okay, it sounds like a buzzword, I'll admit, but it is the single most crucial concept in this entire framework.
It really is. It's what dictates how you move from red to blue.
So how does it work?
Well, it connects differentiation and cost. I mean, most companies think they face a trade-off, right? You either offer low cost or you offer high value.
You can't have both.
That's the conventional wisdom. But value innovation demands that you pursue both at the same time. High value for customers and low cost for the company, all through strategic innovation.
So the formula is deliver way more value to the customer, but do it with a much lower cost structure for the company.
Exactly. It's about being smart and creative, not just throwing more money as the problem.
Let's use an example. Cirque du Soleil is the classic one.
It's the perfect one. They were in the tired, old circus industry, a textbook red ocean, but they created a totally new market by merging the circus model with sophisticated theater.
Okay, so let's unpack their value innovation. Let's use that cost and value dynamic. What did they strategically reduce or get rid of?
They eliminated the enormous costs of a traditional circus. So that meant getting rid of expensive star performers who wanted huge salaries.
And the animals.
Critically, yes, eliminating the animal acts. That meant no more expensive training, housing, transport, not to mention the growing public backlash.
So by cutting those huge costs, they freed up a lot of resources, Where did they reinvest that to raise the customer value?
They raise the artistic quality, the sophistication of the storytelling, the music, the whole theatrical
So
experience.
they attracted a whole new audience.
A completely new demographic. Adults, corporate clients, people willing to pay a premium price for a unique high art experience, which is something the old circus never offered.
And that is value innovation.
It is eliminating old costs to fund new high-value creation.
We see the same pattern everywhere. Look at how Netflix first took on Blockbuster. They eliminated the physical stores and the late fees, which were core costs for that industry, but they created this high-value convenience of mail order and eventually streaming.
Creating a whole new market for delivery. The key is that the innovation is strategic. It's focused on opening a new market, not just winning small battles.
Which brings us to the really practical part of this deep dive.
Yeah.
The actual tool you use to engineer this change.
Right.
Here's where we move from theory to, implementation. How do you, as a business leader or just a curious learner, systematically figure out what to eliminate and what to create?
That's where the toolkit comes in. And the core tool is the 4 actions framework. It's a mechanism that forces you to question every single assumption in your industry.
Okay, let's go through the 4 questions it asks.
First, eliminate. What factors that the industry currently takes for granted should be entirely eliminated? This is about getting rid of those old, low-value cost drivers.
So if the industry has always done something, but it no longer provides real value to the customer, that's what you cut.
Exactly. Second question, reduce. What factors should be reduced well below the industry standard?
So this is where you find cost savings in things that are maybe over-engineered.
Right, or where competitors are fighting over tiny improvements that customers don't actually value enough to pay for.
Okay, number 3.
Raise. What factors should be raised well above the industry standard? This is where you strategically invest your savings to increase value in the areas that truly matter to your new customers.
And finally, the big one.
The one that really defines the blue ocean. Create. What new factors can you create that the industry has never offered before? This has to be the differentiator that pulls in that new, untapped demand.
To bring this to life, let's go back to the iPhone. Its launch applied these 4 steps with, surgical precision to the mobile and computing markets.
It was a perfect application. So when Apple designed the iPhone, they had to eliminate the physical keypad and the stylus.
Which were standard on every single phone and PDA back then.
Every single one.
Yeah.
And that drastically reduced manufacturing cost and complexity.
Okay, so what did they reduce?
They reduced product complexity. Old smart devices were hard to use. You needed a manual. The iPhone reduced the learning curve to basically 0.
So what did they raise?
They raised the touch experience and the design. They invested so heavily in making that multi-touch interface responsive and seamless. It just blew existing standards away.
And the create step, the big one.
That created the App Store ecosystem. This factor letting third-party developers sell apps was something the mobile industry had never offered. It completely redefined what a handheld device could even be.
So that simultaneously lowered cost by getting rid of physical parts and complexity while drastically raising customer value and creating a new platform.
That's value innovation defined. And this whole process is often visualized using a companion tool called the strategy canvas.
Right, and it's important to understand this visually. It's more than a chart. It's like the blueprint for your blue ocean.
It is the blueprint. The strategy canvas plots an industry's profile. The horizontal axis lists all the factors the industry competes on: price, service, features, whatever.
And the vertical axis.
That measures the offering level, how much the company invests in and provides of that factor.
So if you plot all the major competitors in a red ocean on this canvas, what does it look like?
They all look almost identical. Their curves just overlap. They're all high on the same factors, all low on the same factors, fighting over tiny differences. That's a red ocean. Everyone is matching everyone else.
And a successful blue ocean strategy curve.
It looks completely different. It's divergent. The curve will be low on the eliminate and reduce factors, showing the cost savings, but it will spike way up and introduce totally new dimensions on the raise and create factors.
So when your value curve looks fundamentally different from the competition's, you know you're on the right track.
That's a sign. You're on the path to an uncontested market.
Now, when we talk about examples like the iPhone or Netflix, I think listeners often assume this strategy is only for, high-tech inventions or companies with a massive budget.
Right, that you need some kind of technological breakthrough.
But the sources make a really crucial point against that. BUS is about reimagining value. not just technology.
It is entirely about the innovative concept of how you deliver value. I mean, think about a non-tech example like Southwest Airlines decades ago.
Okay.
They created a blue ocean in the airline industry, not with new jets, but with a simplified concept. Point-to-point routes, no complex baggage transfers, and getting rid of things like assigned seating or expensive meals.
They eliminated costs, like complex baggage handling and meal prep, and they reduced turnaround time, which is a huge industry cost.
And they used those savings to raise flight frequency and lower ticket prices, creating a completely new market for high-frequency, low-cost air travel.
That really proves the framework is strategic and conceptual. But let's talk about the why. Why go through all this? What's the financial payoff for this kind of effort?
Well, the ultimate benefit is that monopoly-like advantage you get.
Okay, so how does that translate into massive profit and growth?
The economic insight here is critical. For a period of time, the Blue Ocean Company captures the entire producer surplus. They avoid the crippling costs of competitive advertising because they're the only name in the game.
They get to set the price.
They set the market's reference price. This lets them generate these huge, super competitive returns and reinvest massively to secure that early lead. They aren't worried about competitor pricing. They're focused on growing the market itself.
Precisely. But, this strategy isn't without significant risk, right? Creating a blue ocean must require huge investment and carry a high chance of failure.
Oh, absolutely. No major strategy comes without challenges.
So what are the key hurdles companies face when they try to do this?
Well, that initial creation step, it requires significant R&D and capital investment with absolutely no guaranteed return.
That's a big risk.
A huge one. And then, if it works, managing the sudden surge of demand in a new market can be incredibly difficult if your operational systems aren't ready to scale.
And I guess the most persistent challenge has to be competitors eventually showing up.
Yeah.
Your blue ocean eventually turns red, doesn't it?
It does. Once a market is proven, competitors will follow. But the framework aims to create a barrier to entry based on value perception, not just patents.
So by the time they arrive.
By the time followers arrive, the first company has already defined the standards, captured the market's mind share, and established economies of scale. It makes it much, much harder for followers to catch up.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. We've defined the difference between the crowded red ocean and the expansive blue ocean, and seen how value innovation is the core engine.
The simultaneous pursuit of low cost and high value.
And we've got the toolkit, the 4 actions of eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. Success comes not from fighting the competition,
but from making that competition entirely irrelevant. It's about radical differentiation and cost reduction.
It's a really profound mindset shift. You stop looking at what everyone else is doing better, and you start looking at what your industry is doing that's completely unnecessary.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you, the listener. If you were to apply the most radical action, the eliminate action, to a product, service, or industry you know well.
What single expensive, long-held assumption or major cost structure could you remove entirely?
Think about what your industry just takes for granted. If you could remove that one factor, what kind of completely uncontested space for growth might suddenly open up?
Allowing you to create your own peaceful, profitable sea.
We encourage you to analyze your own field. Start sketching out your strategy canvas. Use the 4 actions framework. It is a powerful lens for discovery.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into making competition a thing of the past.